राम 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 सुप्रभातम सर्वेभ्यः प्रवेशकक्ष्यायां स्वागतम. A very warm welcome to all of you to प्रवेश. अद्यतन पाठः अपि चतुर्थः पाठः एव. गत कक्ष्याद्वये अस्माभिः चतुर्थः पाठः एव पठितः. अद्यापि वयं चतुर्थं पाठम् अग्रे पठिष्यामः. In the last two classes also, we have studied the fourth lesson. Today also we will be continuing with the fourth lesson itself, learning some grammatical concepts, Vangmaya Parichayaha, that is introduction to literature. And also we will be studying some Subhashitam, if time permits, and maybe shlokas. So let us begin as usual. Guru Vandanam Uktva Prarambham Kurmaha. सर्वे कृपया वदन्तु. गुरुरेव गतिर्गुरुमेव भजे, गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे. न गुरो परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः, मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो. ब्रवीमि संस्कृतं वाचा, ध्यायामि संस्कृतं हृदा. पूर्वे सेवाञ्च कायेन, वन्दे संस्कृतमातरम्. यो नरः संस्कृतव्योम्निह्यालयं रमते मुदा, संस्कृतिं चैव संस्कारं विन्दते नात्र संशयः. सूक्तिं जानीमः वयं सर्वे. उद्योगिनं पुरुषसिंहमुपैति लक्ष्मीः इति. अर्थमपि वयं पठितवन्तः पठितवत्यः च. भाषाभ्यासे लङ्लकारस्य परिचयः अभवत्. भूतकालः लङ्लकार, which denotes past tense. We have learned this in the past 2 weeks, so I'm not going to spend much time. Just quick recap of what we have covered in the lesson so far, and we will be moving forward. Atra parasmai पदिनः आत्मनेपदिनः अपि कथं भवन्ति इति वयं जानीमः. So we have learned how we have the past tense in parasmaipada and in atmanepada forms, that is simple past, langlakara. We also learned examples of sentences. Yesterday's class also you would have done exercises, that is Saturday. Those who haven't attended, please go through the recording and complete the exercises also. It would help you. So moving forward today, last class we were learning about karma padam. Khalu atra udaharanam svikurmah. Rameshah patram likhati. Atra Rameshah iti kartrupadam. Patram iti karmapadam, likhati iti kriyapadam. So let us look at this sentence because we are going to learn something more in Bhasha Abhyasa today. Kartrupadam ityukte yat padam kartaram dyotayati tat kartrupadam. So kartrupadam is a word which denotes the doer of an action. For example, here Rameshaha is kartrupadam. So that is the subject in English, right? So doer of the action is the subject. Here it is in what we call the first case, the nominative case, or prathama vibhaktihi. It is a noun. Likhati, as you all know, here in the first sentence, likhati is in the present tense, latlakaraha. Atra alikhatiti langlakare asti bhutakale. Likhati iti kriyapadam. Atrapi alikhat iti kriyapadam. So likhati, alikhat, these are Verbs, we all know about it. That is, a verb is a word which denotes an action. The subject is the one who does the action, doer of an action. Atra kartrupadam asti Rameshah iti, likhati iti kriyapadam asti. Patram iti kim? Patram iti karmapadam asti. Rameshah likhati. Ramesh writes. Rameshah kim likhati iti prashnasya uttaram karmapadam dadati. So when we ask a question, Rameshah kim likhati, what does Ramesha write? The answer is given by karmapadam. Karmani dvitiya, we say. The karmapadam will be in the second case, or the dvitiya vibhakti. Now, why is this important? We are learning this in detail. I hope this is clear to all of you, because we are going to learn something new in this lesson called active voice and passive voice, which we all know in English, right? So Ramesh writes a letter is active voice. The letter is written by Ramesha is passive voice. So in Sanskritam, we call it Kartari Prayogaha, Karmani Prayogaha. And there is a reason for this nomenclature. There's a reason why we call it Kartari and Karmani. Active voice is Kartari Prayogaha and passive voice is Karmani Prayogaha or Bhave Prayogaha. There are two types of passive. We will introduce you to that in this lesson, but you will not be at this stage in this lesson, you will not be changing active to passive. I mean, we are all familiar in English exercises. We are asked to change from passive to active and vice versa. That change we are not doing at this stage. We are just understanding the concepts of Kartari, Karmani and Bhave Prayogaha. And last class, we also learned Akarmaka Dhatavaha, Sakarmaka Dhatavaha. Atra dhatuhu ityukte root form of a verb. Sarve jananti. Khalu. Rameshah kim likhati iti prashnasya patram iti karmapadam uttaram dadati. Rameshah likhati. Likhati iti likh dhatuhu. It is, the root form is likh. Likh is a sakarmaka dhatu. Sa ityukte along with, sahitam. A ityukte nasti. Sakarmaka. So please, when we learn in Sanskrit, every word has a meaning, why it is called so. Sakarmaka dhatu means sakarmaka. It exists along with the kriyapadam, as in a karmapadam. An object or a karmapadam is possible to be associated with with dhatu or the kriya. So there is an answer. What does Ramesh write? Ramesh writes a letter. So karmapadam. So lik, that is called sakarmaka dhatuhu. Akarmaka, which cannot have an object, which do not take an object. They are the other kinds of verbs. So for example, saha hasati. He laughs or he smiles. Saha kim hasati, there is no answer. Kimartham hasati is different. Why he laughs is different. That is a different question. Kim hasati, what does he laugh? There is no answer. So such verbs are akarmaka. They do not have a karmapadam. Some other examples are dhavati, runs. He runs or she runs. What runs? There is no answer. There is no karmapadam. Similarly, suryaha prakashate. The sun shines. What shines? There is no answer. So these verbs which do not take an object or a karmapadam are called akarmaka dhatavaha. Those which take an object, khadati, saha kim khadati, phalam khadati. Right? Those which take an object are called sakarmaka dhatavaha. Those which do not take an object are called akarmaka dhatavaha. Agre pashyamaha idanim. Idanim active and passive voice in Sanskritam. Active ityukte kartari prayogaha. Passive ityukte karmani athava bhave prayogaha. Let us see the examples. This conceptually you should understand clearly. And going forward in Sanskrit, there is a lot of passive usage in Sanskrit. It is preferred. Passive usage is preferred in certain contexts also. So instead of aham karomi, you do not say aham, you say maya kriyate. So passive, you come across a lot in texts So you have to be familiar with this. Let us conceptually understand now how it is changed to passive a little further, not at this stage. But I will let you know, I will introduce you to that also. But in the Pravesha textbook, for exam point of view, you are only introduced to these concepts. Balakaha phalam khadati. So phalam is karma padam, fruit. Balakaha iti atra kartripadam or subject. Eats iti atra kriyapadam. Khadati. Eats iti kriyapadam. So note the colors have correspondingly indicated in English and Sanskrit. So here let us see subject boy is in singular, right? So when you see that the subject is in singular, the kriyapadam khadati ityapi ekavachane asti. I think by now all of you will understand if I speak simple Sanskrit. The intention is to help you listen, understand, and also you can start conversing in Sanskrit. So I will explain in English, but you will also, but I think this level of Sanskrit you all can follow now. Balakaha iti nama padam kartripadam ekavachane asti. Atra khadati iti kriyapadam api ekavachane eva asti. Hello. So in English, what happens? Boys eat fruits or fruit, whatever. Boys eat, but boy eats. So that is how the verb changes according to singular and plural in English. Samskrita bhashayam ekavachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam api santi. Balakaha khadati, balakau khadataha, balakaha khadanti. Atra kim bhavati? Kriyapadam kartripadam anusarati. Correct? So what is happening in this sentence? The verb is following the kartripadam or the subject. Balakaha phalam khadati. Balakau phalam khadataha. Balakaha phalam khadanti. So in these three, if you see, only I'm changing the number of the kartripadam. Balakaha, balakau, balakaha. Phalam iti ekavachane eva asti. In these examples, I'm telling you. Balakaha phalam khadati. Balakau phalam khadataha. Balakaha phalam khadanti. So if you see, I've retained the karma padam in singular. I'm only changing the kartripadam, the vachanam. So what is happening correspondingly? The verb is following the vachanam of the or the number of the kartripadam. Balakaha khadati, balakau khadataha, balakaha khadanti. Ataeva asya prayogasya kartari prayogaha iti vadamaha. So I told you kartripadam, the doer, the balakaha here, that word kartripadam. So yasmin prayoge kartripadasya pramukhyam asti saha prayogaha kartari prayogaha. So in active voice, so I will just write the word here. Active voice is called kartari prayogaha in Sanskrit. And why is it called like this? The reason kartari here refers to kartripadam. And in the active voice, the kartripadam or the subject is given importance because the verb follows the subject, the vachana of the subject. Therefore, in whichever prayoga, the voice, in English we say voice, in Sanskrit prayogaha, where we are giving pramukhyam or the importance to kartripadam, that is called kartari prayogaha. Okay, because kartripadasya pradhanyam asti atra. Asmin prayoge kartripadasya pradhanyam asti. Ataeva kartari prayogaha iti nama. That is why it is called kartari prayogaha. Now, here we already learnt this example. Boys eat a fruit. Balakaha phalam khadanti. Atrapi balakaha iti bahuvachane asti. Atayeva kriyapadam khadanti iti ityapi bahuvachane asti. Phalam ekavachane eva asti. So karmapadam phalam, whether whatever is the vachanam, we are not bothered in kartari prayoga, active voice, because the verb follows the kartripadam. So here subject is plural, verb is also plural. In balakaha phalam khadanti. Idanim agre pashyamaha karmani prayogaha. Okay, this I will just read it out to you. We've already explained. Even though object is in singular, verb follows the subject, therefore verb is plural. Boy eats fruits. Let us see this example now. Atra pashyantu, boy eats fruits. Balakaha iti ekavachane asti. Phalani iti bahuvachane asti. Khalu? Karmapadam bahuvachane asti. Kartrapadam ekavachane asti. Param kriyapadam api ekavachane eva asti. Balakaha phalani khadati. Atrapi kriyapadam kartrapadam anusarati. Kartrapadasya vachane eva kriyapadam api bhavati. Atra phalani iti karmapadam yadyapi bahuvachane asti tathapi atra kriyapadam kartrapadam anusritya ekavachane eva bhavati. I hope you all followed. Here phalani, the karmapadam is in bahuvachanam. However, because the kartrapadam is ekavachanam, khadati, the verb is also in ekavachanam in kartari prayogaha. Here the object is in plural, but subject is in singular. So the verb is also in singular. This is about active voice or kartari prayogaha. Karmani prayoge, we will see how it happens. I will explain by using some examples. So as we know, a group, we learned all this. This is a recap. So those who have joined us late, you could go back to the first few introductory lessons we did on grammar, and we did a verb. What is a word? Padam. And a group of letters joined together with a meaning is called a word, padam, and which is basically of two types, subantam or namapadam, nouns, and tingantam or kriyapadam, verbs. And here we learned that there are two kinds of verbs, sakarmaka and akarmaka. Of course, another classification is parasmaipadam, atmanepadam, ubhayapadam, that is different. But in terms of its relation to the karma padam, we have sakarmaka dhatavaha and akarmaka dhatavaha. In English, they are called transitive and intransitive verbs. Sakarmaka, transitive. Akarmaka, intransitive. The sun shines. Here, shines would be intransitive. Prakashate, akarmakaha. Balakaha, balika patham pathati. Pathati. Atra, that would be reads, would be transitive or sakarmaka. It takes an object. Now, in sakarmaka dhatavaha, let us go back to the previous one. Maybe it would be easier to explain to you with this. So here, if you look at this example, khadati we know is sakarmaka. Phalam, bhalakaha phalam khadati. So I told you this is kartari. The passive voice would be karmani prayogaha. So it is called karmani prayogaha. And in karmani prayogaha, it would be balakena phalam khadyate. You don't have to know this right now, but naturally a question will arise in your minds as to how do you change it to passive in Sanskrit. Therefore, I am mentioning this here. Though this is not like I said, this changing or a transition from active to passive is not there at this stage. Balakena phalam khadyate. So the rule is the Kartrupadam changes from Prathama Vibhakti to Tritiya Vibhakti. So let us see in English. Boy eats a fruit. The fruit is eaten by the boy in passive, right? The fruit is eaten by the boy. So that by the boy, what we have in English, it is what we call Tritiya Vibhakti in Sanskrit. That is instrumental case. Balakena. So the word, the Kartrupadam or subject changes to instrumental case or Tritiya Vibhakti in Sanskrit in Karmani Prayogaha. Phalam will be in Dvitiya Vibhakti in Kartari Prayoga, active voice. It changes to Prathama Vibhakti or nominative case in the Karmani Prayoga or passive voice. Balakena phalam khadyate it becomes. So the rule in Sanskrit for changing to passive is that all verbs, they will sound similar to Atmanepadam verbs. That we will get by practice. So khadati becomes khadyate. Pathati becomes pathyate. Likhati becomes likhyate. So the verb changes to another form which sounds similar to Atmanepadam. But the rule is that I said khadyate, right? So in Kartari Prayogaha, you cannot say khadyate. That would be wrong. Only when you are changing to Karmani Prayogaha or passive tense, only then it will become khadyate. This is just for your information at this stage. So it becomes khadyate in this example. And we learned that Karmani Prayoge Karma Padasya Pradhanyam Asti. Balakaha phalam khadati, balakena phalam khadyate. Balakaha phalam khadanti. Idanim atra pashyamaha. Balakaha phalam khadanti. Karmani prayoge kim bhavati? Balakaihi phalam khadyate ityeva bhavati. So in Karmani prayoga, balakaihi, it becomes instrumental case. Phalam remains the same. But the Kriyapadam in Karmani always follows the Karma Padam. Therefore, though it is Balakaha Bahuvachanam, in Karmani Prayoga, it would be Balakaihi Phalam Khadyate only. It will not be Khadyante. Khadyante is Bahuvachanam of Khadyate. However, in Karmani, because the object here in this example, I'm saying Balakaha Phalam Khadanti, Balakaihi Phalam Khadyate. Because the verb follows the Vachanam of the Karma Padam. Okay, so this is Karmani. In the next example, I will show you. Here, Atra Pashyamaha Balakaha Phalani Khadati. Atra Pashyantu. Balakaha Phalani iti padam karma padam bahuvachane asti. Atra Kartari Prayogaha asti. Balakaha Phalani Khadati. Active voice. Kartari Prayoge Kartrupadam Kartrupadasya Pradhanyam Bhavati. Kriyapadam Kartrupadam Anusarati. Therefore, Balakaha Ekavachane asti. Khadati ityapi Ekavachane asti. Karmani Prayoge Katham Bhavati. Balakena. Instrumental case. Tritiya Vibhakti. Balakena Phalani Khadyante iti bhavati. So here, what we are observing in Karmani Prayoga or passive voice, Balakena iti yadyapi Balakena iti ekavachane asti. Even though Balakena, the word Balakena is an ekavachanam, the verb in Karmani is becoming Khadyante. Why? Because the verb follows the Karma Padam in Karmani Prayoga, and here Karma Padam Phalani is in Bahuvachanam. Therefore, in karmani prayoga, it would be balakena phalani khadyante. Balakaha phalani khadati. Karmani prayoge balakena phalani khadyante. Now, I hope it is clear why we call it kartari and karmani. Based on what is the dominating factor in that sentence. In kartari or active voice, it is the kartripadam which controls the verb. And in karmani prayoga, it is the karma padam which controls the verb. And it is the karma padam which dominates in karmani prayoga. Now we will look at this table once again. So we have here sakarmaka and akarmaka dhatavaha. Now a natural question arises. Kartari karmani we have learnt for sakarmaka dhatavaha. Balakaha phalam khadati. Balakena phalam khadyate is karmani. What happens when the verb is intransitive? Akarmaka dhatavaha. So, karma padasya pradhanyam asti karmani prayoge. Yada karma padam eva nasti tada kim bhavati. When there is no karma padam at all, like for example, some verbs we learnt don't take a karma padam. Suryaha prakashate. Sa dhavati. Shishuhu hasati. So these verbs do not take a karma padam or an object because they are intransitive or akarmaka dhatavaha. In such cases, what happens? Let us take an example. Suryaha prakashate. Kartari prayogaha. Hello? Athava nakshatram prakashate. The star shines. Nakshatrani prakashante. The stars shine. When there is no karma padam, how do you change it to passive? In English, that is where we have to be careful. There is no passive for intransitive verbs. The sun shines or the stars shine. We do not say it is shown by the sun or it is shown by the stars. It doesn't exist in English. Doesn't sound right. So we cannot change it to passive correctly, accurately in English. But in Sanskrit, we have a special prayoga for that called bhave prayogaha. Bhave, I'll write it here. It's clearer if I write it here, I think. Bhave prayogaha asti. We should remember, bhave prayoga is only for akarmaka dhatavaha. Only akarmaka dhatavaha get bhave prayoga. All sakarmaka dhatavaha only get karmani prayoga in passive. Both are passive usages only, bhave and karmani. But in English, we do not have the equivalent for bhave because in English, we cannot change sentences with an intransitive verb into passive. But in Sanskrit, we do change. How does that happen? Suryaha prakashate. So there, suryena prakashyate. So again, it becomes the kartripadam. Same thing happens like in karmani. Kartripadam gets changed to the instrumental case or the tritiya vibhakti. And the kriya padam, similarly, it assumes a form like the atmane padam form. So there are some forms of verbs which are used only in karmani or bhave, which we will learn later. You don't need to know at this stage. But at this stage, it is enough to remember that we have three kinds of usages, voices, that is kartari, prayogaha, active voice, yatra kartripadasya pradhanyam asti, kriyapadam kartripadam anusarati, karmani prayogaha, yatra karmapadasya pradhanyam asti, kriyapadam karmapadam anusarati, akarmaka dhatunam krite, bhave prayogaha bhavati, Samskrita bhashaya. Bhave prayoge api karma padam nasti. For all akarmaka dhatavaha, in active and passive, there is no karma padam. However, we still can change it to a passive kind of usage in Sanskrit. In English, I can't say passive tense, a passive voice because that concept is not there. Passive voice concept is not there for intransitive verbs. But in Sanskrit, we have For intransitive verbs, we call it bhave prayogah. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Conceptually, please understand, and you can read in your textbooks. So this is what we will be learning at this stage. Sankhyaha. Vayam patitavantaha patitavatyah gatakakshayam. So this I will not repeat. It is just knowing the Sankhyas. We learned this in the last class till Shatam, till 100 we have learned. Kripaya sarve savadhanataya pathantu. Please memorize these Sankhyas because you will be asked regarding this also. Vyavaharika shabdaha, shariravayawaha, parts of the body. This also we were introduced to in the last class. So we read it out aloud. It is just knowing the meaning and the English Sanskrit word for these parts of the body. So now we will riddle. Prahelikam api vayam patitavantaha patitavatyah. Prahelika purushah kidrisho veti prayena sakalah kalah madhyavarnadvayam tyaktva bruhi kasyat suralayah. So we stopped here in the previous class. Kartari karmani bhave is new in this class. We haven't done it in the previous class. Therefore, we did it in detail. That also forms a part of bhasha abhyasaha only. The reason we did it today is because we thought, introducing langlakara and kartari karmani in the same class might be a bit much. So we completed langlakara and then we took up this change of voice in today's class. So we all know the meaning. We have learned this. Kidrishaha purushaha prayena sakalaha kalaha veti. What kind of a person probably is well versed in all art forms? Madhyavarna dvayam tyaktva kaha syat suralayah bruhi. Bruhi ityukte vada. Another word for synonym for bruhi is vada. Bruhi means say. Okay, so if we come across in the kritis of Sadashiva Brahmendra also, bruhi mukundeti, right? So say mukunda. Meaning tell the word mukunda, chant Bhagavan's name. That is what it means. Bruhi vada. So through these shlokas, you will learn many synonyms. So tell what is the synonym for Suralayaha or heaven by removing the two letters in the middle from the answer. So by dropping the two letters in the middle, tell what is Suralaya, the abode of gods or heaven. Suraha Devaha. So Nagarikaha iti Prahelikayaha uttaram asti. Nagarikaha. So in this word, it means a civilized person. And when you remove the two letters in the middle, ga and ri, so you can look at the last line on the slide. Nagarikaha, when ga and ri are removed, you get the word nakaha, which is a synonym for Suralayaha or heaven. Okay. Now we will come to a very interesting part of this lesson, Sangrahya Vishayaha. Of course, each component is so interesting in this, in all the lessons, and also in Pravesha, and I think in every lesson in this particular syllabus, that is Samskrita Bharati, you have a mixture of everything. You learn grammar, you learn language exercises, you learn shloka, subhashitam, riddle, katha. So it makes it very interesting for you, each lesson. Idanim asmin pathe vayam shivasya shlokadvayam pathamaha. We will learn two shlokas about Shiva. So we learned Guru, we learned Vishnu, we learned Ganesha. Now it is Shiva. Aham ekavaram vadami anucharanam kurvantu tadanantaram artham pathamaha. Harav papani haratat Shivo dattam sada shivam na janamiti no bruyat सर्वज्ञपदभाग्यतः. पुनः एकवारं पठामि. हरः पापानि हरतात् शिवो दत्तां सदाशिवम् न जानामीति नो ब्रूयात् सर्वज्ञपदभाग्यतः. इदानीं केनापि पठितुं शक्यते. केनापि कयापि. लक्ष्मी जी कृपया पठतु एकवारं.
नमस्ते.
नमस्ते.
हरः पापानि हरतात् शिवो दत्तां सदाशिवम् न जानामीति नो ब्रूयात् सर्वज्ञपदभाग्यतः.
उत्तमं लक्ष्मी जी. एन् मरी जी कृपया वदतु.
नमस्ते.
नमस्ते. नमस्ते. यस् श्रूयते.
हरः पापानि हरतात् शिवो दत्तां सदा शिवं न जानामीति नो ब्रूयात् सर्वज्ञपदभागयतः.
उत्तमम् एन् मरी जी. No, that's okay. Please take care. Uttamam. Yeah, take care of your voice. Yeah. Okay. Idanim haraha papani haratat shivaha dattam sada shivam na janami iti no bruyat sarvagnapadabhag yataha. Okay. Now, the word hara, every word in Sanskrit can have multiple meanings. Similarly, every meaning, every context can have multiple words. For example, the word jalam itself has more than 30 synonyms. So, and in different contexts, the same word can have multiple meanings. That's the beauty of the language. Haraha iti padasya, shivaha ityapi asti vayam janimaha. So, hara is another word for Shiva. Ishvaraha, Haraha, Mrityunjayaha, Maheshwaraha. Multiple, every deity or every god also has multiple names. So, Shiva is another name for Hara. Hara is another name for Shiva. Another meaning of the word Hara is as a verb, it means rob or steal. Or contextually, it can mean remove also. Steal as in S-T-E-A-L, to rob someone of something. Okay. So, when it is used as a noun, haraha, the word means Ishvara. And hridhatu is also there, which means to steal or to remove. Here, this haratat, this is a verb. Haraha here is a noun. Haraha papani haratat. So haratat is in a lakara or a tense called lot lakaraha. We haven't learnt it till now, but we will learn in future. In Pravesha itself, you will learn. But now that you are introduced to this word, I am introducing you to this lakara here itself. You can remember this so that when we do lot lakara, you would have already been introduced to it. Okay, so lot lakaraha. Haratat is in lot lakaraha. It is hridhatu. The table goes like haratu, haratat, haratam, harantu. So that is the prathama purusha form. Haratat is lot lakara or imperative mood, which denotes command or request, or in the sense of may this happen. So that way also sometimes lot is used, but lot is generally for command or request. Okay, so may Hara or Shiva here remove all our sins, all sins. So haraha papani. Papani means sins. Haratat. Haratat is prathama purusha ekavachanam form in lot lakara. So haraha papani haratat. May hara remove sins. Shivaha dattam sada shivam. So the word Shivaha of course refers to Lord Shiva. It also means auspiciousness. So like this, many words in Sanskrit will have the reason we call Shiva, I mean Ishvara, he has a name of Shiva because he's an embodiment of auspiciousness, everything that is auspicious. So Shivaha sada, always, Shivam dattam. May Shiva always give or bestow auspiciousness. Okay, so haraha papani haratat. May Shiva remove sins or may Hara remove sins. Shivaha sada shivam dattam. Again, may Shiva always give or bestow auspiciousness. Najanamiti no bruyat. So he cannot tell us na janami, I do not know. He cannot give an excuse saying I didn't know or I don't know about the state of the devotee. Why is that so? Sarvagnya padabhag yataha. Yataha means because. So because he is sarvagnya. Sarvam janati iti sarvagnya. Sarvam janati. He knows everything. He is omniscient. So because he is all-knowing and or omniscient, he cannot give us an excuse saying, I didn't know. So when a devotee needs him or when the devotee is asking for something or is in trouble, Shiva has to protect. So that is the prayer here in that sense. Okay, so Shiva, may Hara remove sins, may Shiva bestow auspiciousness. He cannot say, I did not know. He cannot tell us, I wasn't aware. Why? Because he is omniscient. He is all-knowing. So he cannot give us the excuse that he wasn't aware. The meaning doesn't sound, the play of words doesn't come across very well in English. Because when I say, may Hara remove or rob us of sins or rob sins or steal sins, it just sounds like any other sentence. But in Sanskrit, haraf papani haratat. So that play of words of haraha and the verb haratat is very beautiful in Sanskrit. Shivo dattam sada shivam. So again here, Shivaha, when you say Shivo dattam, we know Shivaha here is referring to Lord Shiva. Shivam here is auspiciousness. So Shivo dattam sada shivam. So how beautiful it is when we read in Sanskrit. But when I say the same thing in English, that play of words and meaning doesn't come across, but we should know the meaning. The reason I'm stressing on this is if you learn this language, then you will be able to appreciate the beauty of words as they are in the language itself, and not necessarily through translations, because translations, they really do not come close to appreciating the text in its original form. So just reminds me of Abhignana Shakuntalam of Kalidasa, where it is the climax scene where Bharata is regretting. Bharata is, that is the father of, Dushyanta, the father of Bharata. Shakuntala and Dushyanta's son is Bharata. And Dushyanta, the father of Bharata, is regretting that he has abandoned Shakuntala when she came along with the son. And therefore he goes in search. And when he is in Svargaloka, the story goes as such in Kalidasa's Abhignana Shakuntalam. And the boy Bharata is playing with tiger cubs. So to distract him, the people or the helpers who are taking care of him there, his mother's friends, they say Shakuntalavanyam Pashya. They want to distract the boy from playing with the tiger cubs because, you know, they can be ferocious. And they want to divert his attention towards the beauty of Shakunta birds there. Okay, so they say Shakunta Lavanyam Pashya. Lavanyam is beauty. Shakunta is the Shakunta Pakshi. So Shakunta Lavanyam Pashya, see the beauty of these Shakunta birds. Then the boy, the young boy, hears Shakuntala, which is his mother's name. and suddenly he exclaims, "Oh, where is my mother?" And Dushyanta is watching this scene from a distance. And then he realizes when the boy exclaims, "Where is my mother?" on hearing the word Shakuntala, he realizes that Bharata is his own son. So this is the beauty that, the very special part of Abhignana Shakuntalam. Shakuntalavanyam, and suddenly the boy Bharata says, here's Shakuntala and says, "Where's my mother?" How do we explain this in English? It all sounds very absurd. As in, I explained the story, but you don't get that beauty of reading it in Sanskrit itself. And that is the one of the many main components of that kavyam. This is why I request all of you to please continue studying this, not just for exam pravesha, but further, even beyond all the 4 exams of Samskrita Bharati and further, so that you can appreciate each text in its original form. Okay, so now let us just read the meaning once. May Lord Shiva remove the sins. May Lord Shiva bestow auspiciousness always. Bhagavan Shiva cannot say he does not know anything because he is omniscient or all-knowing. We'll complete the next verse also. That is also on Shiva only. Ekavaram aham pathami. Asannaya suduraya guptaya prakatatmane sulabhayati durgaya namaschitra shambhave. Asannaya suduraya guptaya prakatatmane sulabhayati durgaya Namaschitra shambhave. Priyadarshini ji, ekavaram pathatu.
Namaste, Begin.
Namaste.
Asannaya suduraya guptaya prakatatmane sulabhayati durgaya Namaschitra shambhave.
Dhanyavadaha Priyadarshini Bhagini. One thing to note, all of you, this is not a chanting course, but I must stress here, Guptaya Prakatatmane. Second P is heard. It is called the Dvitvam effect. Though we do not have a second P written here, while chanting it is heard, the doubling sound happens. So Guptaya Prakatatmane. We will not be going into details of Dvitvam here, but while chanting this verse, please, all of you, pay attention to that. Ram Krishnamurti Mahodaya.
Yes, ma'am. Asannaya suduraya guptaya prakatatmane
Sulabhayati Durgaya.
Sulabhayati Durgaya. Namaschitra shambhave.
Dhanyavadaha Mahodaya. With practice, you will definitely improve fluency. So again here, Namaschitra. All of you please note, we should not chant it as Namaschitraya. There is no sakara there. It is shakara. Namaschitra, like Shivaha. Same shakara there. Raghavendra Mahodaya. Kripaya vadatu.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Asannaya suduraya guptaya prakatatmane sulabhayati durgaya namaschitra shambhave.
Dhanyavadaha. All of you, one thing I'm noticing is please be clearer while pronouncing Namaschitra. Shambhave. Same sha is there here also. Shambhave. Namaschitra. We should not chant it as Namaschitraya. Namaschitra. The sha and cha both should be clear. Asannaya, Suduraya, Guptaya, Prakatatmane, Sulabhaya, Atidurgaya, Namaha, Chitraya, Shambhave. So all these words in this particular verse are adjectives to Shambhave or Shambhu. Shambhu is the word Ukaranta Pullinga Shabda, which is, it is a synonym for Ishvara. So all the others are also synonyms for Ishvara. And they're all, what are they doing? These are all these, we are giving all these adjectives and saying Namaha. Namaha means salutations. One thing to note is whenever the word Namaha is used, salutations in Sanskrit, the associated nouns, the associated words with the word Namaha will be in what we call Chaturthi Vibhaktihi. So, Krishnaya Namaha, Ramaya Namaha, Gurave Namaha, Shambhave Namaha. We will come to this in Pravesha when we are doing Chaturthi Vibhakti. But because we are introduced in this shloka, please remember all these words, Asannaya, Suduraya, Guptaya, Prakatatmane, Sulabhaya, Atidurgaya, Chitraya, Shambhave. All these are in Chaturthi Vibhaktihi, Shambhave Namaha. Okay, so let us see what each word means. Asannaya, that is, who is very near, so who appears nearby. Suduraya, who is very far. So you see how these opposing qualities are described in this particular verse. Asannaya, for someone who is very near. Suduraya, for someone who is very far away. So to that, my salutations to Shambhu or to Ishvara, who is very close and who is very far. Guptaya, who is a secret, and Prakatatmane, who also projects himself very clearly or who manifests himself very clearly. So here the shloka is saying Bhagavan is, Ishvara is secret. I mean, he's a secret and he manifests himself or projects himself clearly. And Sulabhaya, who is easily attainable. Atidurgaya, who is very difficult to attain. Durga means one of the synonyms or the meanings of Durga is difficult. Atidurga is very difficult. Sulabhaya, Atidurgaya, very difficult or exceedingly difficult. Chitraya, to that wonderful. Chitraya is someone who is wonderful or who is mesmerizing with all his qualities. Shambhave, to salutations to that wonderful Shambhu. So he is wonderful or fascinating, mesmerizing because of these, because he can be very near and very far. He is a secret and he manifests himself very clearly, who is very easily attainable and who is very difficult to attain. So this, we come across this, right? Even in Durga Saptashati, while describing Devi, they say, Ati Saumyati Raudraye. So she can be extremely Saumya, very soft-natured, and Ati Raudra, and extremely fierce. So how do these opposites, portray themselves, or how does this happen? So for someone who is a devotee, who is, for example, we all know the story of Bhakta Kannappa, right? Kannappa Nayanar, which is associated with the Sri Kalahasti temple. Ishvara, very famous Ishvara temple in Andhra, in India. So this Kannappa Nayanar, he was so devoted to Lord Shiva that when he saw that he was a hunter and he did not know how to do this, all these rituals, puja and how it is done. But he was so devoted to Shiva, and when he saw that Shiva's eye was bleeding, he removed his eye immediately with his arrow and kept it for Shiva. And then he saw the other eye started bleeding. Then he realized if he removes his one eye is gone, because one eye is already kept it for Shiva and he's seeing with one eye. And the other eye of Shiva was bleeding in the Shiva Linga. And he thought, if I remove this other eye also, how will I know where to keep? Because I'll be blind at that time. So what did he do? He lifted his foot and he placed the the toe where Shiva's other eye was, to indicate to him as to where he has to place the other eye, the exact position, because when he removes the other eye, he would be blind. And he removes the other eye also with his arrow and places it exactly where Shiva's other eye was, because he did not care about himself or his eyes, but was more concerned about Ishvara. So that was his bhakti or devotion, and Ishvara was overwhelmed with his devotion and blessed him. So to such a devotee, and Ishvara especially, is very easily attainable by devotion. So that is what all the texts say. So he's very easily attainable. Sulabhaya. That is for true devotees with that kind of devotion. But he can be Ati Durgaya also, extremely difficult to attain without that surrender or giving up of ego, or without devotion. Similarly, he's a huge secret for ones who cannot visualize him, who are not close to him, who are filled with ego. But he manifests himself very easily to those who surrender to him. So that is how we have to understand these opposites. And also one very famous description for Bhagavan, that is Almighty, is Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. Again, diametrical opposites. Anoraniyan means Anu is atom, the smallest indivisible part of matter, which is not even visible to the eye, right? So Bhagavan, the Almighty, they say, is Anoraniyan, smaller than the Anu, smaller than the atom. That is smallest of the small, smaller than the atom. And Mahato Mahiyan, bigger than the biggest, or mightier than the mightiest. So these opposites I used to describe Almighty or Bhagavan. So this is one such verse, very beautiful verse. So to that wonderful Shambhu, Chitraya Shambhave Namaha. So my obeisance or salutations to such a wonderful Lord Shambhu or Shiva, who can be nearby, who is far away, who is sometimes hidden and sometimes manifests himself very clearly. He is easily attainable by some and also very difficult to attain by a few others. Okay, now we have 2 more minutes, so I think we will not be able to commence Vangmaya Parichayaha, or maybe I will just introduce you and then we can take it up in the next class. So as you know, in every class we are learning something about Sanskrit literature. We started with the Vedas, and then we moved to the Upanishads. We learned the Darshanas, and now we are learning about Srimad Ramayanam, which you know is called Adi Kavyam, the first Kavyam. The reason it is called the first Kavyam, etc., the story we will do in the next class. It will take some time. We can't rush in 2 minutes. And we know that this was composed by the great Adi Kavi, the first poet, Valmiki. It has 24,000 verses divided into 7 kandas, or 7 chapters. And it narrates the story of, Sitayash Charitam Mahat, it is called, the great story of Sita and Rama. And lot of associated, we have a lot of associated people coming in the Ramayana, Bharata, Lakshmana, Dasharatha, etc. So we will learn about this in the next class about Srimad Ramayanam. Next class, we can complete lesson 4. We have Katha left and we have Subhashitam. And I think, yeah, with that we will, and maybe some words like Kati. So I will just take the question. There is only one question today. In Bhave Prayoga, what Vachanam does verb follow? Sarita Bhagini, excellent question. Because in Bhave Prayoga, I told you there is no Karma Padam. So in Bhave, the rule is the verb is always in singular. So there is only Ekavachanam in Bhave Prayoga because there is no Karma Padam. In Karmani, the verb follows the Karma Padam. So when the Karma Padam is Ekavachanam, verb is Ekavachanam in Karmani. Similarly, correspondingly, if Karma Padam is Dvivachanam, verb is Dvivachanam. If Karma Padam is Bahuvachanam, verb is Bahuvachanam in Karmani. In Bhave, because we do not have a Karma Padam, the verb is always in Ekavachanam. And in both in Karmani and Bhave Prayoga, the verb always is it sounds like Atmanepadam verbs, like Khadati becomes Khadyate, Likhati similarly. So we will learn this further, how it changes when we come to learning the changing from active to passive voice. Okay, so with that we conclude today's class. Please revise Lang Lakaraha and please memorize the shlokas which we have learned so far. We will conclude with Shanti Mantraha. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dhanyavadaha. Agami Ravivasare Punarmilamaha. Shanivasare Abhyasa Kaksha api prachalati. Ram Ram Ram. Dhanyavadaha.